Hi friends, I am ready to give you some more clues to see if you can guess what animal I am going to read about after we make a recipe. So, first clue is the beginning sound, which is er. Can you make that sound? Er. Can you think of words that start with that sound? Maybe animal words that start with that sound? Okay, so that's the first clue. The next thing is we are making salad on a stick, and that is because today's mystery animal is an herbivore. Can you say herbivore? That means they only eat vegetables. So we're making salad on a stick because it is a fun way to eat your vegetables, a fun way to eat salad. So be listening for clues and be thinking about animals that start with er. Let's hop over here to our ingredients. These are the ingredients I am going to use for my salad on a stick. I have a head of iceberg lettuce, grape tomatoes, and a cucumber. Now you can use whatever vegetables you have. This is just what I'm using. And speaking of vegetables, our mystery animal is not usually liked by gardeners and farmers that grow vegetables because this animal often likes to get in their garden and eat whatever they can find. So there's another clue for you. I am going to cut these up and show you how to put them together. All right, I have got my veggies prepped, but I thought it might be helpful for me to show you a couple things about the way I decided to cut them. So open your ears and let me show you what I did. So I decided it might be a good idea to leave the skin on my cucumber because that kind of makes it a little more firm, but you can take it off if you really don't like the skin. And then I sliced it. You're gonna need an adult. I sliced my cucumber, trying to show you, into a pretty thick slice. And then I cut it into 4 pieces so that they're nice and chunky. I'll show you why that's important in a minute. And then I have these little pieces of my iceberg lettuce. What I did was I took the head and then I chopped a slice of it and then washed it while it was like this so that I could cut it into pieces that will kind of stay together for me, okay? All right, this still needs to be washed, so I'm gonna move it over here. And now I can show you how to put salad on a stick together. So, you're gonna need some little wooden skewers, and you can put them together however you like. I like to start with a chunk of the lettuce. And you have to be careful because skewers usually have a pretty pointy end so that they can stab through whatever you're putting on them. And then I did a cherry tomato, and you know it's helpful if you'll look at where the tomato was attached to the stem. You can use that to help you know right where the middle is to go through the tomato. And then put a piece of cucumber, and I like to end mine with a tomato. But you can do whatever order you like, just like you can use whatever vegetables you like. There's you an example. So here is how I serve up salad on a stick with a little bowl of dressing to dip in. So before the story, I'm going to give you one more clue about the animal, and that is it is known for having a really cute little fluffy tail. All right, do you think you know what animal I'm going to read about today? Let's think about the clues. The first one was the beginning sound is and I told you this animal is an herbivore, which means it only eats fruits, vegetables, plants, no meat. Okay. I mentioned hopping because this animal hops to get around. I talked about how farmers sometimes don't like this animal because it gets in their plants and eats whatever it wants. I mentioned ears because this animal has big ears so that it can hear really, really well. And I also told you it has a cute little fluffy tail. And if you haven't figured it out, I'll tell you. I'm going to read a story about a rabbit. And sometimes people call rabbits bunnies. So today's story is Bunny's Book Club by Annie Silvestro, published by Doubleday. Bunny loved books. He'd loved them ever since he first heard the lady with the red glasses reading aloud outside the library. As he listened, Bunny imagined himself climbing mountains, captaining a ship, ruling a kingdom. But when summer ended, story time moved back inside. Bunny wasn't sure if animals were allowed in the library, but Bunny was sure he couldn't live without books. Night after night, he could hardly sleep for wishing. He had to do something. So with a flashlight in his paws and hope in his heart, Bunny jumped out of bed and tiptoed through the dark. But when he reached the library door, it was locked. So were the windows. Bunny tried digging, climbing, and yanking. Nothing worked. Until finally, he noticed the book return. The shiny handle was far above his head, but it was no match for a high-hopping bunny hungry for books. Bunny leapt. He clung to the bar, flung himself over, and wriggled his cotton tail through the slot. He landed inside with a thud. Bunny's eyes sparkled at the sight of the shelves bursting with books. It was better than a field full of fresh, crunchy carrots. Bunny didn't know where to start. He took a deep breath. It smelled as if he were wrapped inside the pages of his favorite book. He followed his nose to the adventure section. There he found stories about swashbucklers, sharks, and superheroes. Bunny greedily grabbed them all. His whiskers twitching with excitement, he slipped his treasures through the book slot one by one. Then, performing his best balancing act, Bunny wobbled home. He couldn't wait to dig in. And so Bunny returned to the library each night. He searched and sneaked, then scurried back to read. Soon, his home was more books than burrow. Then one evening, a loud knock startled Bunny. He closed his book and opened the door. "Where have you been?" asked Porcupine. "Reading," said Bunny. "Why?" said Porcupine.
Bunny's eyes popped wide open. "Why?" he sputtered. "Have you ever been to the library?" It was time for Bunny to let Porcupine in on his secret. "Are you sure this is a good idea?" said Porcupine. "Calm your quills," said Bunny. "I'm too prickly. I'll never fit." Bunny pushed and shoved until pop went Porcupine. Bunny slipped in and flipped on his flashlight. "Whoa," said Porcupine. "I know," said Bunny. "Do you think there's a story about balloons? I've always wondered about balloons." "Most definitely," said Bunny. Sure enough, Porcupine found books on balloons, and on deserts and dunes, on caterpillars and cocoons. When Bunny handed him one about hedgehogs, he hugged it. The two friends took turns cramming books out the slot. Their towers teetered so high they could barely carry them. Back at Bunny's, they cozied up with cups of tea and carrot muffins. Together, they read until sunrise. One night, Bear noticed the light on at Bunny's. He opened the door and tipped over a stack of books. "What's going on?" said Bear. "Here," said Bunny, handing him a book. Bear made room and settled in to read. Soon, more curious animals began visiting. "Do you have any books about outer space?" said Bird. "Or about volcanoes?" asked Mole. "I'd like a ghost story," said Mouse. "I think it's time for a field trip," said Bunny. One by one, the animals stuffed themselves inside the library. Bear caused a bit of a delay. They scattered about, sniffing the stacks, pawing over pages. Squirrel gathered stories about the circus. Raccoon nabbed one about outlaws and bandits. Frog found a fairy tale. No one heard the key in the front door. No one heard the clack, clack, clacking of footsteps. No one heard the light flick on. Uh-oh. "What do we have here?" asked the librarian. The animals looked up in shock. Bunny gasped. Porcupine gaped. Bear groaned. "Follow me," she said. The animals marched slowly behind her. "We're done for," whispered Porcupine. "All libraries have rules," said the librarian sternly. Bunny's whiskers trembled. Porcupine's back bristled. Bear eyed the door. Bunny stepped forward to take the blame. The librarian leaned down. "The first rule is, every book lover must have one of these," she said. She handed Bunny and his friends shiny new library cards. "Now you may borrow books," she said, smiling. "As long as you return them, of course." Bunny couldn't believe his ears. They could keep coming to the library. He beamed at his fellow readers, then bounced to the shelves. He picked a perfect book and he proudly checked out the very first official selection for Bunny's Book Club. The end. I love that book because I love animals and I love reading and I love the library. Now, that is definitely a fiction book, right? It's made up. But I have a nonfiction book here to recommend about rabbits, and it's called How Do We Live Together? Rabbits by Katie Marsico. And you know, I talked about how farmers don't always love rabbits because they eat their vegetables and whatever else they plant. Isn't he cute? But this book talks about how, it's important to live with nature. And so there's ways that you can grow vegetables and grow plants and not have to hurt any rabbits to keep them from eating what you're growing. And so I really recommend this if you have a garden or if you're just interested in that topic. All right, that's all the time I have for today, so I'll see you next time.